Hello, this is Fight News Now Extra. My name is John Pollock, and today on the show I'm going to be joined by John Ramdine and Robin Black to break down UFC 173 from this past Saturday, featuring a new bantamweight champion that few saw coming, and we'll look at the rest of the card with strong contenders being built in the light heavyweight and welterweight divisions. The main event of UFC 173 saw TJ Dillashaw bring the first UFC championship to Team Alpha Male with easily the best performance of his career, stopping Barao in the 5th round following a head kick and follow-up strikes. The finish capped off a performance that saw Dillashaw drop Barao with an overhand right in the opening round and control the fight with his superior striking for the rest of the bout. The loss is the first that Barao has suffered since April of 2005 and ends his 33-fight unbeaten streak. Daniel Cormier turned in an excellent performance, out-wrestling and shutting down Dan Henderson. Cormier immediately slammed Henderson to the mat in the opening round, with the first 2 rounds focused on Cormier getting the takedown and working from side control, where Henderson had no answers for the freestyle standout. Cormier turned it up in the 3rd, getting the back of Henderson and choking him out cold with just over a minute to go in the fight. Robbie Lawler rebounded from his loss to Johnny Hendricks by outmatching Jake Ellenberger. Lawler looked extremely confident in his striking and ability to pop right back up after a pair of Ellenberger takedowns. Lawler would stalk his prey and mix up his striking to stifle Ellenberger and stopped him with punches in the 3rd round at the 3:06 mark and made a big statement towards getting a rematch with Johnny Hendricks for the welterweight title. And it was announced after the card that the UFC will return to China for a fight night card in Macau on August 23rd. The card will feature a welterweight bout between Dong-Yun Kim and Hector Lombard, as well as a middleweight contest involving Michael Bisping taking on Kung Lee. This will be another date where the UFC runs 2 shows on the same date, with a card in Tulsa, Oklahoma set for August 23rd as well. And I'm here with John Ramdine and Robin Black. And last week we were talking about, there's something in the air, but none of us had the guts to fully commit to it. But nonetheless, TJ Dillashaw, I think, surprising just about everybody on Saturday night.
Everybody except for Robin Black. You were convinced. We were talking about the fact that, I really feel this. I think it's his time working with Duane Ludwig. And you had your comment, his coach says that he's gonna become the new champion. But I guess Duane Ludwig saw something that we didn't have the opportunity to see.
He did, and what that was and what made this work, why this happened, it's like, wow, how did he do it? You look back at his last few performances and it was percolating. You couldn't say based on those performances that he's going to win this fight, but you could say based on those performances that he was adding things into his game that each time got better. And this whole angles game, coming in on different angles, hiding your footwork with your punches, moving your head on the way in and on the way out, pushing him back with shots, that game takes a long time to develop. And from day one when Bang Ludwig walked in till that day, that all was developing. It was fascinating to see. It was unbelievable.
What I love is that there were no set patterns. I'm sure there was patterns in his combinations, but you just had no idea what TJ Dillashaw was going to do.
But that's the point. He wants you, the viewer, and most importantly, Barao, to know there's no idea. But him and Bang Ludwig knew what he was doing. There's 12 or 13 or 15 different patterns that are happening, different feints intentionally designed to set up other things, different footwork intentionally designed to come under a thing and go over. When I watched that fight 5 times, and there are patterns there. There are things that they did. It was by design. It's unbelievably fascinating. It's working on a level that we've rarely seen in MMA.
Now, this isn't the case of, this champion just, slips on a banana peel, gets knocked out in the opening round. Nearly did in the 1st round, but this was over the course of 5 rounds. I mean, this was Barao being dominated like we have never seen him before. He didn't seem like he wanted a part of this fight when they got into the 5th round at this point. Do you think that Barao steps back now and maybe we go with another challenger rather than the immediate rematch? Because, to be honest, I think this dominance was so fresh that I think coming back with the rematch is a little shy at this point.
However, if you're Barao and you're his team and you say, hey, that punch that TJ Dillashaw landed in the early part of that fight that dropped me, I had a concussion after that. I simply could not recover, and I couldn't put forth the best performance over the next number of rounds. That will not happen in this rematch. Just look at my past performances when I kicked the Team Alpha Male's leader's ass in Uriah Faber, not once but twice. I think that it almost warrants a rematch because of the fact that he was considered to be one of the pound-for-pound best, and all of his performances in the past have looked pretty dominant.
I don't think you can rematch when you've been beaten for 23 minutes like that and finished. There's just no way. If Barao sets out and whoever the next guy is just absolutely annihilates him and says, all those other fights and tonight That's me. That one fight wasn't me. Maybe, but you got to go beat somebody else. But it was executed. It was planned. This was a fight that was set up to go this way with the belief by the coach and the fighter. And two things we take away. One is TJ Dillashaw is now for real, and he's going to be a monster. But two, this style of striking, this style of moving on angles is going to be incorporated by other people. We first saw it really with Frankie Edgar versus Sean Shirk, where he, in secret, in a lab, built this style of fighting, which works great because I'm hard to take down when I'm on a different angle. You're chasing me, but not the typical way with me backing up, and I hurt you. We saw it with him. Dominic Cruz has been dominant with it. This is something guys are doing. It takes a long time to be able to create, and it's very hard to stop. Over the next year or two, we're going to see guys execute this, and it's going to be a while till we see the answer to shut it down.
Well, the question I have to ask, you mentioned Dominic Cruz, you mentioned TJ Dillashaw and Frankie Edgar. Three things that those guys have in common. They all have wrestling backgrounds, and they also dedicated to improve their striking abilities, and they're also very, very athletic. So are those three things that you need to have to be able to do that? Can anybody just come in there and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to start fighting like Dominic Cruz and TJ Dillashaw?
Awesome question. I hadn't thought about that. The wrestling, I think the answer to that is, one, they're great athletes who learn really well. Two, they're great moving their feet to start with. And three, you start with a blank slate. When you take a guy who didn't start with some fundamental kickboxing style and you build him from the ground up, that's one thing they all have in common. It's fascinating. Watch for it. This is the future fighting.
I think it also adds a ton of interest now, if there wasn't already enough, for Jose Aldo, Chad Mendes now, this camp war that has developed between these two, where they can take another one of Nova Unya's titles.
Mendes will win that fight too.
Daniel Cormier, if you're advising him right now, is the best play right now to sit back and just wait to see whatever happens with Jones and Gustafsson?
No, if he wants to make some money, it's like I will take a fight, as I mentioned before, with Shogun, with Phil Davis, Little Nogueira, throw in Tito Ortiz, anybody that I can beat and make 50 or 60,000 bucks, 100K, that's the fight I'm taking.
Daniel Cormier, Tito Ortiz, interpromotional. Let's make it happen at the end of the year. For Robin Black, John Ramdeen, I'm John Pollock. More Fight News Now Extra coming up.